Welcome back to Light Talk, where everyone can be themselves and tell their own unique paranormal and supernatural spiritual experiences with a safe and supportive community. If you have a story you would like to share, email me at lighttalk423@gmail.com. And while you're at it, click on the like, share, and subscribe buttons. All right, let's get started. So, we have a wonderful guest today, and we want to welcome you to the show. And so let's go ahead and get started. Why don't you introduce yourself and let's start?
Wonderful. Thanks, Dana. Well, I'm Wendy Rose Williams, and I'm a past life energy healer, and I help people release the energy that's not serving them, whether it is pain, anxiety, depression, or just feeling stuck, having that stuck energy and struggling to move forward. And we can feel so much happier and healthier, and really enjoy our life when we're able to release that energy that's not serving us. So that's me in a nutshell.
Well, awesome. Yeah. So you have some wonderful stories to be telling us about things that's happened with you and all. And yeah, I'm excited to hear some more about it. So can you start with
Certainly.
some of those?
Well, I'm here to share the experience that I had with two near-death experiences that occurred in August of 1997. And I was newly pregnant at the time. I was 10 weeks pregnant, very, very excited to be adding to the family because we'd had years of infertility and I'd had two ectopic pregnancies and we had an 18-month-old toddler. So the day of the first near-death experience, I was working at home alone. And Dana, I just did not feel right that day. I kept trying to focus, but just didn't feel right. And all of a sudden, I had this terrible sense of impending doom. I've never had that before. And I ran into the bathroom thinking something's terribly wrong. I'm going to be sick. I don't know what's wrong. And when I got into the bathroom, I looked down in shock at my abdomen because it felt like someone had literally stuck a knife in me, and it felt like an organ burst was all that I could think of. And I knew I was going down. I was literally falling to the floor and passing out. And I cried out to God for help, particularly knowing that I was home alone. And what happened next was I came to because there was this insistent male voice, and he kept saying urgently, Wendy, Wendy, you've got to wake up now or you're going to go home. And I knew he meant I was going to die if I didn't get help. So I opened my eyes and I was disoriented because things were happening quickly, and I'm lying on my side in the bathroom. And as I look up, all I could see, Dana, was this incredible amount of light. And there was so much love, and it was coming from these four or five huge angels, and they were about 8 to 9 feet tall, and they were like just a little bit up off the floor, just floating gently. And I could see their wings, were so big that they kind of trailed behind them a little bit. So he repeated, Wendy, you've got to call for help now. And my answer, I told him, I said, I understand, but I can't walk. I don't know how to get to the phone. Because again, this was 1997 and we didn't have cell phones, glued in our back pocket or
Right.
like we do now. So I had to get to a landline. And his answer was just multi-level. And I've since learned this is how angels speak. There's just layers to what they share with us and how they love and support us. And he said, you just have to be willing to try. So I managed to get up on my hands and knees at that point, and my belief system was just like falling away so rapidly, just being blown open that this was happening. And the next thing that happened was I was just gently moved, in that same position and just plunked down in front of the phone that was on the nightstand next to the bed. So I reached up and I had a brief thought of who do I call? He didn't say who to call. Never crossed my mind to call 911 because here I am, 36-year-old healthy woman, and it just didn't cross my mind. So I chose to call my husband at work because I knew he worked super close to our house and just 5 minutes away. And the miracles continued with me getting the help that I needed because I reached him right away on the phone. I have never reached him at work like that on the first call. And I give him a lot of credit because all I said was, I need you to drive me to the hospital now. Can you take me to the hospital now? And all he said was, on my way. And I could hear the phone clunk down. So I had just enough time to call the OB office and tell them what was happening. And I told them that in addition to this incredible pain and that it felt like something burst, that I could see my abdomen was just getting bigger and bigger, which I didn't understand why that was happening. And what they told me was, that's perfect. Your husband's on his way. He's going to get you here faster than 911 at this point. So when you get here, don't park the car. We're going to be waiting for you curbside. We're going to have a wheelchair. We don't want you walking. So that's exactly what happened. Things are moving very quickly now. I get whisked up to the OBGYN office and they help me up onto the table to have an ultrasound. And I didn't understand because I'm looking at the screen and I'd had ultrasounds before. I mean, it's amazing how much you can see. And all I could see was black and like a little bit of movement. So I look at the ultrasonographer. I'm like, is your machine working? Is that machine on? I don't understand. And she said, I'll be right back. I'm gonna get the doctor. So I'm looking at my husband, like, I don't know what's going on, but this is not good. So
Right.
she back in a flash with not only a physician, but with a certified nurse midwife with her. And it was kind of comical just for a second as I looked around, because there's now like, that many of us trying to jam into this little tiny room that's meant for two people. And the physician adjusts the ultrasound, and he knows what's happening and tells me, gently but just straight to the point, Wendy, you've got a major abdominal bleed. That's what you're seeing on the screen. That's all blood that looks like black, and it's just obscuring everything. It's all blood loss that shouldn't be happening in that area. We need to admit you to the hospital right now. So someone ran and got a stretcher. And again, I was so fortunate because the OB office was at the hospital. So I get transferred onto the stretcher and they take me immediately onto the floors. Do not pass go, do not go to registration, and get me straight straight into a hospital bed. Just lifted me into the hospital bed from the stretcher. And at that point, so I've got the doctor there with me, I've got the nurse midwife, my husband, there's nurses, it's just someone from registration. There's just a lot going on. And the instructions were, okay, you can't get out of bed even to go to the bathroom. We just need you to lie prone and let's see if we can get this bleeding to stop. And we need to start transfusions. So I understood that, and they asked me my blood type, if I knew it. It's like, of course, everybody should know their blood type. So I told the nurse it was A negative, and she ran out to the nurse's station to call the Puget Sound Blood Bank because I was living in Seattle at the time. It's a central blood bank to not be wasting this precious resource. And nowadays, there's something called a free app you can put on your phone called an ICE app in case of emergency. And I think those are so worthwhile downloading because if you're ever in any sort of an emergency, the medics will be able to get to that information without knowing your password on your phone, and they can look up your blood type, any allergies, anything important that you might not be able to communicate. So nurse comes back into the room, not looking happy. And to our surprise, she says, I can't get blood for her because evidently there was a train collision 2 or 3 days before, and there was no A negative blood readily available at that time. So we had been discussing taking me to surgery, but we don't know what we're operating on. I'm pregnant. We don't have blood to transfuse me with. So the decision was made, and I was very comfortable. I was making this decision with my physician that we were going to do what's called wait and watch. and just keep really good, track of my different vitals, my hemoglobin, and start transfusions as soon as we could. So they were able to get blood for me about 5 or 6 hours later and started transfusing. And it's also important to understand I was very comfortable because there was a brief discussion of should I be transferred downtown, but I worked in healthcare. So I knew more about my local community hospital where I was than most people might know. I knew they had about 5,000 deliveries a year at that time. So that meant there was a deep infrastructure. There was a really good infrastructure for OB emergencies and GYN emergencies. And also, as I said, I'd had those two ectopic pregnancies. So I'd had two surgeries with my doctor already, as well as the infertility treatments. So my instinct was I was right where I needed to be, and I was really comfortable. I was getting excellent care there. So we made the
Right.
decision I was going to stay where I was. So I was transfused for about 3 days, very closely monitored. But Dana, I could feel myself walking between worlds. And what concerned me the most about that was I didn't really care because I just had less and less and less energy because I was literally just bleeding out, and that chi, that life force energy was just leaving. And that is so not my personality to, to just be giving up and to not care.
Yeah.
So the third day, a physician came to me and said, Wendy, we've really got to do surgery. We don't have a choice at this point. We can't, you're officially bleeding out. We can't transfuse you quickly enough because, as you know, we're going through bag after bag, and you just lose it. And I knew my abdomen was just, larger and larger. I mean, I hadn't even looked pregnant. I was only 10 weeks, and now I looked like I was 5 or 6 months pregnant because there was
Mm.
so blood had
Yeah.
just pooled in my abdomen where it shouldn't be, versus being in my bloodstream.
Right.
I agreed to the surgery. It was going to be the first case the next morning with my own OBGYN as well as with one of his partners. And I was very happy with that decision because I knew he was an excellent surgeon. And I signed the paperwork for that. I had my dinner, and I was just trying to rest. I was alone in my hospital room the night before surgery, and I was just trying to visualize the best possible outcome. And the minute I had that thought, I popped right out of my body. I left my body, and I was pulling up higher and higher from it. And I was looking back over my shoulder, and I just had this humorous moment because I started to feel better immediately because I'm back in pure soul form.
Yeah.
And, no more pain, no more fear, and just, felt more and more like myself. So I'm looking over my shoulder at myself as Wendy in the bed, and I'm like, oh my gosh, look at her. She's a hot mess. She's whiter than the sheets. And look at her hair. She looks like the wild woman of Borneo.
Oh no.
Because of course, there's been no mirror, there's been no comb or brush, for 3 days plus at this.
Right.
So I did have that humorous moment. And then I'm like, wait a minute. Why am I referring to myself in the third person, she and her? It's like, oh, because I'm me again. I'm my soul self. And yes, the body's important. It's very important, but because it houses our eternal soul, but it's just for one lifetime. So I was just very, very blasé about it. And I'm look again at myself in the bed because I want to follow the white light because that's what really got my
Hmm.
attention the minute I came out of my body. So I'm like, she's fine. No, she was not fine, but I wanted to follow the white light. So that's exactly what I did. So I
Yeah.
just going up higher and higher. So I could easily go through the ceiling and go up through the hospital, and go up faster and higher and higher. And I'm following the white light, and I can feel this like magnetic pull that just helps guide us home. And there's always someone to, help guide us if we need help. But I didn't need any help. I knew exactly where I was going. But all of a sudden, I just stuttered to a stop. Like if you've ever run out of gas in a car, that terrible feeling like, oh no. Exactly. I'm like, I'm out of gas. And my first thought, and I hadn't made it home, and my first thought was, oh, please don't make me walk through one of those long tunnels. I just don't have enough energy. I won't make it. I need help. And the minute I had that thought, this beautiful escalator just dropped in, and there was so much light coming from it. It was pristine. There's no one else on it. I know it's just for me. I'm like, yes, my ride home. So I plop myself on the escalator gratefully, and I was hanging over the right side handrail. And that made me realize what my body form was, what my soul form was at that moment, my energy form more accurately. And I knew I should have been like a beach ball of just like all this like lively energy, like orbs are, if you've ever seen orbs or pictures of
Yeah.
orbs. But instead, I'm like, flatter than a pancake, just like hanging over the railing. But yes,
Okay.
getting the ride home. So I go up, up and up and up to the light. And the minute I get up there and I'm just seeing all this, so like, yes, I'm home. And there's a welcoming committee for me. They clearly knew I was coming because everyone's waiting there and they're gathered in this marvelous little
Mm.
to greet me. And I get this huge group hug from my soul family, and there were 18 or 20 of them, and I could see
Oh,
those same 4 or 5 angels that had been in my bathroom were standing right behind them. And Dana, I could have stayed there forever
I
because it's
bet.
unconditional love.
Yeah.
And there's just no pain, there's no lack, there's no fear. And it was just amazing. So after whatever period of time when I'm just getting this hug and just filling up my gas tanks again, my energy started to restore and fill back up again. And the same male angel, Archangel Michael, the moment he spoke when
Mm.
I was home, I recognized his voice. And he said, welcome home. We're so glad you're here. You've done nothing wrong. You're welcome to stay. And I'm thinking, oh, of course I'm going to stay
Yeah.
on this hug. So
This
everyone,
just happened.
he kind of like motioned everyone to like move back because it's like I couldn't make any other decision like during that hug and that down
Yeah.
of unconditional love for me. And that made me realize we've got to learn how to give that to ourselves. We've just got to go within. And then when we do that for ourselves, we just radiate it out to other people too, naturally. So when everyone stepped back so that I could focus on what Michael was saying, the next thing he said was, you're going to need to decide quickly. I can tell you 3 things to help you make your decision. And I kind of flash back on that body bleeding out in the bed that does not have a soul. It's like, oh, clearly that is not viable for very long. So what he told me was, if you choose to go back, you will have a successful surgery tomorrow and you will fully regain your health. Oh my gosh, this is like weight of the world off my shoulders because, of course, I've been truly worried about that.
Yeah.
And number 2, your baby will be born healthy. This is huge to hear that because, as I said, years of infertility, ectopic pregnancies. I'm now 36. And I really felt like this was a very, very special baby. And I felt like it was going to be my last opportunity to have another child. So this is huge to hear this because I've had transfusions. I mean, it's just been, so many things going on for me health wise and just
Yeah.
emotional. So this is a big, big deal to be told that. And again, more weight of the world coming off my shoulders. So now
Yeah.
to I'm starting to tip the scales of, oh, maybe I should go back. Maybe that is the best decision. And then it twists the other way again with what he tells me with number three. And what he said
Um,
was, if you do choose to go back, your life will be very difficult, likely for many years, because you're not living your purpose. You're not on your path. So I just, oh, my energy just plummets. I feel
mm,
terrible. No one wants to hear that. I'm so just chagrined. I'm just like, oh, that's awful. I want to get it right. So tell me, what should I be doing? What should I not be doing? What do I need to change? And
right.
he just gently shakes his head. And I'm like, oh boy, no information there. But then it's like, well, wait a minute. I've got my whole soul group here, those who just know me the best. There's got to be a chatty Cathy in the group, right? I got to go around and ask them all. So I like start going around and like shaking everybody down, trying, okay, what do you know? What do you know? What's my purpose? What should I be doing? What about my path? Come on, help me here.
Right.
No one will tell me anything, and it takes me a while to catch on. They're not meant to, but they can just, because we've got perfect telepathy at home, and my energy's just plummeting again. It's like, how can I do this without knowing? So everyone catches on, that I'm so concerned about this. So they start being really, really funny. When I go to ask the next person, they do something different, but it just all strikes me hysterical. So they like, put duct tape over their mouth, but like in a really funny way, or like lock it up and throw the key away. But everyone's like, song and dance, and it's just funny. It's just really, really uplifting because laughter really is the best medicine in so many ways. And I think our sense of humor is just meant to be a great coping mechanism, especially when things get hard. So I'm like, okay, I get it. No one's supposed to tell me, but I still know you 1000%, love me and support me. So Michael asks me at that point, what do you want to do? And the second he asks me that, Dana, all I can see is our daughter's face. I can see our adorable toddler's face. And Tara had this big head of brown curly hair and these huge hazel eyes, and I just see her smile.
Oh,
But it's not normal size. It like filled my world view. It was like bigger than an IMAX screen. It was like all
oh,
I could see was her smiling at me. And I know I'm going to regain my health, and I know I'm going to have a healthy baby. So it's like, oh, okay. I'm just going to have to figure out the rest. So I tell Michael, put me back in, coach. I'm ready to play, meaning I just wanted to engage with life at a deeper level, and really be there for my children and other aspects of my life. So everyone gives me one more huge group hug at that point. And that time I could feel the energy download that I really needed to be able to have that complex, successful, long surgery the next day. So everyone gives me just energy boost, and they go into cheerleader mode because I've said I'm going to go back in there, and they're just like, oh, you're so brave, you can do it, get back in there. So cheerleader mode for me. And Archangel Michael is just beaming. He's like so proud of this decision too. And so he just turns me around after I get that second group hug from everyone, and just feel their love and support in a way I hadn't felt before. I had never felt that connected to the divine before that. And just put me back down on the escalator. And I just go down the escalator so easily, and it just drops me straight into my hospital room. And I just go gently back into my body. And it was just, that simple and that natural. And I had two immediate thoughts when I was back in my body. And the first was, ugh, why did I pick such a little body? This is really annoying. I don't love being 5'2", and then I kind of, kind of adjusted. It's like I have to fit, that big energy, because our higher selves, our souls are so powerful and have so much energy, but then we can forget that, when we're in human form. So I had to adjust to that. And I also was like, oh, this is really, really painful. But I told myself, okay, but you just have to get through the night. And in the morning, you're going to have that successful surgery that the angels told me about. So that's exactly what happened, and what the physicians found, because they had some imaging guidance to be able to stay away from the fetus if they were, able to, not knowing
Yeah.
what they were going to find. And what they found was my fundus had ruptured. Fundus is Fundus, and it's the aorta at the top of the uterus. So
Oh
that
my.
ruptured. So that's why I was losing so much blood so quickly. And I had been correct of, oh my gosh, I think an organ burst. I mean, that had been all I could think of was happening when I was in the bathroom at home alone. So
Mm.
um, I then recover in the hospital for several more days. I was in there about a week total, and I get home, sent home, discharged home for 6 weeks of strict bed rest. Dana, I was weaker than a kitten. I couldn't have done anything else if I tried, because I
Wow.
just lost so much
Yeah.
blood. They estimated I
Yeah.
had 75% of my blood, based on the amount of transfusions that they had to keep giving. And I've had the surgery, I've had morphine, I've just had so many things. So we were very fortunate. We had a lovely nanny that was a live-in, that took care of our daughter. So she was taking care of me too, because my husband had to be
Mhm.
at work. So I go back to work after the 6 weeks. I returned to a job that I love. I was the marketing director for a large ambulatory surgery center. And coworkers would, because I've now been out for 7 weeks, and coworkers know that I'm pregnant. And so people would pass me in the hall and say, "Oh, Wendy, I'm so glad you're back. What happened?"
Yeah.
And I have no words. So what I finally learned to just settle on was just say, "Oh, thank you. I'm doing fine. I held on to the pregnancy." I just learned to say that and just kind of leave it at that. And Dana, I didn't have a way to really unpack this experience. I tried to share it with my husband, and what I realized very quickly was he was more traumatized by the experience than I was, because he didn't have the benefit of the uplift of the two NDEs, and having gone home and having connected with the angels and received all that love and energy and support. So, he put yourself in his shoes. He thought his wife might be dying, and that he was going to be raising an 18-month-old alone, as well as losing his second child. So that was kind of his um, experience and perspective on it. I tried to share it with my mother, and she just didn't have any belief system to understand it either, so I didn't share it for 20 years.
Oh,
uh,
wow.
it's just so ironic, because here I was living in Seattle, and Seattle is home to the oldest chapter of IANS, the International Association for Near-Death Studies, which is this
Wow.
amazing support group that helps near-death experiencers with their worldview being blown wide open, and with just, getting their feet back on the ground. But
Literally.
early. I didn't know about it. I wasn't aware of it. And again, it was 1997. So you couldn't Google these things as easily, and you couldn't find the different, groups and podcasts and books and, support that you need for things in life like this. So I was just meant to process it on my own. So that's what I did. And after I'd been back at work for about 6 weeks, it was now November of 1997, and I get called into my boss's office on a Friday afternoon. I don't think a thing about it. I think he wants to chat about the weekend or give me something that he needs done the next week. So I walk into his office, but I can see the weight of the world on him. I'm like, oh boy. And I can see human resources sitting there looking similarly sad with personnel file on the table in front of her. And they didn't have to say a word. And I knew what it was, the dreaded Friday afternoon layoff. So I was laid off from a job I loved, that we very much counted on my full-time income from. And I also carried the health insurance for the family. So this is
No.
a
Mm,
deal because I'm
mm,
pregnant in this high-risk pregnancy with no health insurance. So it really was an issue. So they were as kind as they could be, and severance, and go ahead, Wendy, and apply for unemployment, and then let us know when you need a reference. Of course, we're going to give you glowing references, but the fact is that the job is gone.
mm.
So I go home to tell my family, and immediately did file for unemployment and just started jumping into the family budget of what can I cut, and how do we stretch our funds here, because this is just not an ideal time to be interviewing when you're visibly pregnant. I'm still recovering my health, and it just we didn't yet recognize it was November of 1997, and that was dipping into a really deep recession, but we didn't know it at the time. 1 week later to the day, my husband is extremely late coming home from work, several hours. I'm really concerned. Can't reach him on his cell phone. And he finally comes walking in the door at about 8 p.m. And I'm sitting on the living room couch, like an inch from the front door at that point, because I'm so concerned about him.
I have the
And he
same story with that one. So yeah.
Exactly. He
That's
walks in, I see weight of the world on his shoulders, and he says, sit down. I need to tell you something really difficult. And we've just gone to payless paydays. We've had to lay off everyone in the company. I can't hear anything after payless paydays. It's like I'm in an episode of Charlie Brown, when the adults talk and it's just like, rah, rah, rah,
yeah.
hear anything. He was one of six owners, five or six owners, in a wonderfully successful software company that he'd had for years. They employed about 100 people, beautiful office in downtown Bellevue, on Seattle's east side. And they've gone belly up very, very quickly. Part of it was he wasn't really sharing things with me because I had been going through this health emergency. So he'd been kind of keeping it wrapped up, to not worry me. But he's now no pay, but he's going to be working extremely long hours to get the company. Can they get it sold? What do they do about their lease? Do they, how do they sell the furnishings and equipment? Get all the employees approved for unemployment? There were just a million things to do. Plus, he was going to be programming because they had sold contracts that they needed to fulfill. So not a good situation.
No.
Um, and that's what we went through. And I thought, gosh, the angels really got that right. uh,
That's a lot of
so
difficulties for sure.
it sure was. So we're both out of work. I'm pregnant, no health insurance. Oh, yay. And also, we're heavily mortgaged. We had purchased a larger home. We had purchased a new minivan. We purposefully worked in two different industries, and we both have MBA degrees, and had these great careers going, but our finances were dependent on us both working full time. And that was no longer the situation. So thankfully, we were saved by Bank of Mom, and will forever be grateful to my mother, because she made up the shortfall each month, because I took everything finances down to the bone. but we would have lost our home, and we would have had our car repossessed if she had not helped us with a loan. And the next big thing that happened, Dana, was I was in the pediatrician's office with our toddler, and all of a sudden I heard Archangel Michael come in and just say very urgently, and I could see this lamp on this little side table get brighter and brighter, and I'm looking around, I'm like, nobody else can see this. It's getting brighter and brighter, and I can see a brochure in front of it, and he's just saying, look, 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 look. So I tuck my daughter under my arm and run over and grab this brochure and shove it in the diaper bag to read it home. And what it was an application for WIC, which I had never heard of. It was women, infant, and children. And it was a government program that would not only provide us with some healthy food, which honestly we really needed, but it allowed me to qualify for health insurance because I needed to deliver in the hospital. I mean, there was no option of birth center at home, et cetera,
Right,
based
right.
on gone on medically. So we were able to qualify for health insurance. And I'm also like, wow, I can still hear angels. I can still hear the divine. And that just was a game changer for me. So fast forward to March 13th, 1998. Our daughter is safely born in our local community hospital, where my older daughter had been born and where I'd had the near-death experience. And oh, they gave me one-on-one nursing, which is unheard of. And I was just so grateful for that because they were worried during the entire pregnancy that the fundus could rupture again. And I said, well, what would happen then if that does? With all that pressure, and you're growing a human being there. So there's an
Right.
incredible amount of pressure. And they said, well, if it ruptures, the baby would go up into your heart and lungs. And I'm like, that's death. They said, yes, it would be. So it's like that's quite a way to go through a pregnancy. So
Mm.
again, hopefully I'd had that reassurance from the angels, but they were, worried during the delivery. They want to make sure a baby's going down, not up.
Oh,
So gave
yeah.
me the one-on-one nursing. So a beautiful, healthy baby girl is born. I had been approved for just a very short hospital stay. They're now called drive-through deliveries. And all
Yeah.
I got was a 24-hour stay, including the labor. So I'm, discharged, and my husband takes me and our newborn home the next day, and I'm just reeling. I mean, I'm like so grateful, but it just was moving like so fast again. And I'm nursing her. I'm alone in the primary bedroom, in our bedroom, and Archangel Michael comes in and he says, just conversationally, your contract with your husband is complete. And I'm like, what? What did you just say to me? And I'm horrified because I think I know what that means, but I'm like, well, wait a minute, Wendy, clarify, get more information. And
Yeah.
are you saying my marriage is over? And he nods and he says, yes, your contract with your husband is complete. Your marriage is complete. It's done. And I'm like, wow, now that's some timing when I'm here with a not even day old baby. And just, feeling so grateful that she was there and she was healthy and I was okay. But it just was a really, really big deal. And Michael just left. That was it. Delivered the news. And Dana, I knew it was true. I knew it was correct. I could just feel it in my bones. Did I like it? Was it easy? No, but I needed to know, and I knew it was correct. So we did our very best to be wonderful parents and to be kind and respectful to one another. But when it's done, it's done. I later would find our soul contract together, my former husband and I, because we did divorce once our daughters were both full-time in school. And our contract was to have a long-term marriage together, which we did. We were together for 18 years, that we would both learn from and grow from, and to have beautiful children together. And I could see the plural on children underlined. So Michael was stating a fact. And as I said, we did divorce. We did it. I'm proud of us. We did it peacefully. We did it kindly. We did it respectfully. And we then went to a shared custody with our daughters, going back and forth, starting from when they were 6 and 8 years old. And fast forward now to when they were, so I just focused on them, rebuilding my career. My mother and I chose to build a two-family home together because that was just a great way because she chose to move out from Boston to Seattle once we divorced, and she was retired, and I'm the only child, so was the only grandchildren, and she just wanted to help and take a more active role. So that worked great for the entire family. And she would help my former husband, as much as she would help me, whoever needed assistance with the kids. She's like, I'm team grandmom, I'm neutral, which was a very, very smart way. Whatever the family,
Yeah,
playing any favorites here. So
that's sweet.
once our daughters were 12 and 14, all of a sudden I just woke up one morning and it's like, oh my gosh, what's missing? I feel something new and wonderful coming. What is it? There's something missing. I had not dated at all. I just hadn't had any interest or time for it. But all of a sudden it was like, I'm ready to meet a great guy. And I had no clue how to do that. I didn't feel like I was meeting anyone in everyday life. And it had been 25 years I had met someone. So I asked younger girlfriends who I knew were actively dating, or, who had remarried, or, had a great boyfriend. I said, how did you meet? And several of them said to me, oh, Wendy, that's easy. You just need to go on Match.com. And I'm like, Match. What are you saying to me? Because I didn't know what online dating was. So
Right. Yeah.
was 2010 at the time. And so girlfriends helped me, put together a profile and get some good pictures and, do all that. And the minute I changed my search parameter to 10 miles, because most of those dating websites work, based on your proximity to the other person, and, how far apart are you willing to live to meet
Right.
a great partner. And the minute I changed it, this profile came up, and I'm like, I know him. Where do I know him from? So, and the last sentence in his profile was completely unique. And it said, any woman on a spiritual journey, particularly one interested in an LBL, we have to meet. So I'm sitting there scratching my head, LBL. I don't know what that stands for. So I asked my guides and angels to help me. I said, show me, I'm going to Google, but show me the right reference. So what came up was Life Between Lives, which is this beautiful 4-hour, very deep spiritual hypnotherapy that Dr. Michael Newton came up with and wrote about in Journey of Souls. So he did many past life regressions for patients once he found the incredible healing power of that, as well as Life Between Lives. And what a life between life session is, again, you're safe with that hypnotherapist. You're just relaxing, lying down, and they're gently guiding you through these different experiences. So you go back in utero, you learn, why did you choose this body, these parents? What are your life lessons? What are you working on? How are you doing with it? Why did you choose that time and place of birth? Because that's your astrology that has a lot of input into our lives. And then you go back into a past life. You might go into some scenes earlier in this lifetime too, if they need to be cleaned up and revisioned. And then you leave that past life by going out of the last day in it. Our soul's eternal. So you pass on from that, going back up to the light. You reunite with your soul family. You get a life review from your council of elders to just help you understand how you're doing, what you could, improve, what you could let go of. Uh, does this not sound like a near-death experience? Minus the trauma of what took you to the brink of almost dying. So I'm like reading about this. I'm like, oh my gosh, I've got to get this book. I've got to go for these sessions. This is just so calling my name. So I like order it from the library and I write to this match and asked him, I said, are you referring to Michael Newton, Journey of Souls, Life Between Lives? Because this is fascinating. And he writes back right away and says, yes, have you been for any of those sessions? They're life-changing. I'm getting ready to go for my second LBL. And he says, where do I know you from? And I'm like, I know, I have the same question. So it then takes us 3 weeks to sync up our calendars to meet in person, to meet for lunch, Dana. And we're playing, email, text, phone, like, where do I know you from? And we're still going through like everywhere we've ever been, every group we've ever been in, where we've ever been on vacation. We can't figure it out. So I get to the restaurant first. I'm sitting in the lobby. And the minute he walks in, I thought there was an earthquake. I could feel the earth moving, and I could hear my guides saying, nothing will ever be the same. Pay attention, get ready. So when he comes in, I'm sitting on the little bench, and I'm just gobsmacked. It's like I can't even stand up. And he just dropped down on his knee in front of me, and he's just like looking in my eyes and my face, and he says, I know you. It's like, I know, we've got to figure this out. So he helps me up, and we go on in, and we're just finishing each other's sentences for 3 hours. And it's this is what it's like when you meet a soulmate. It's like there's this feeling of I have to catch up. Oh, there you are. um, I know you. So at the end of this long, amazing lunch, we just say at the same time, I don't know you from this lifetime. It's from our past lives. And for
It
that to
has to be
be
on that.
out of my mouth, and it's like that is the only explanation for this. So we both could just, feel that energy. So it took us 8 years to work our way through 21 shared past lives together. And he's actually the client in my first book, in Regression Healing 1. So yeah, it just was a really big deal to meet each other again, to reunite. And our soul contract was for him to wake me up spiritually, which he did just simply by his energy and, us coming to the realization it was past lives. And by telling me about Dr. Michael Newton and past life regression and life between lives, he actually finds the therapist for me to go to have my first session and actually drives me there because it's back in the day when you had to go in person before we had lovely Zoom. And it just kind of went from there.
That is just amazing. I just love the story of all those, not coincidences, but
Synchronicities,
synchronicities. That's what I'm thinking.
pieces
Yeah, I
falling
mean,
into place. Hmm.
it's amazing. And now, where are you guys at now? Are you still
Yes.
friends or?
We dated for 13 months exclusively. We did have a soul contract, the next soul contract after that straightforward one I loved of waking me up spiritually. The second soul contract was for him to break my heart repeatedly until I stood in my power fully without abusing it. That's a brilliant contract.
Oh,
Care of multiple forms
wow.
of karma for me to work my way through that. But no one deserves to have their heart broken repeatedly. I don't care if it's by your sister, your boss, your best friend, your lover. I don't care who. No one deserves that. And we've got to stand up for ourselves and make some changes in life. So after we were no longer we were no longer dating, I did find the third contract, and this helped explain why it was such a heartbreaking breakup for me. I almost went off the planet because I didn't know what to do, because our contract was to marry and to have a very happy marriage later in life. We met, I was 49, he was 57. I'm divorced once, he was divorced twice. And I could feel, and he felt it too. He's like, we're supposed to do so much work together to help others in the spiritual arena. We're supposed to write books together, be on radio, possibly on television. And he was the one that was the writer. I didn't have that experience. And he was actually a sportscaster. So he also had the TV piece. And it's
Right.
like, oh my goodness. So I felt like I'd not only lost the love of my life, but I felt like I'd lost everything I was meant to be doing spiritually. And remember, I'm someone who had struggled with purpose. And I'm like, here it is, I found it. I meant to help others with their spiritual awakening. And then all of a sudden it was just gone again, because the relationship, um, it was highest highs, lowest lows, had too much intensity to it. It had too much past life energy that we could not resolve quickly enough. There were trust issues on both sides, and I couldn't trust him. He wasn't trusting me. And we had a difference regarding monogamy. And when one wants to be monogamous and one does not, you can't reconcile that. That's not a way to go into any sort of relationship together.
Right.
So what happened was, after we broke up and I had a couple of months to put myself back together, we started just meeting again, 'cause I didn't want to ever see him again. I'm just done. We got together in person and just, exchanged things that we'd had at each other's houses, and, said what we needed to say, and just had some lovely closure on it, which ironically ended up being a 3-hour conversation, just like we'd started with. It was one of the best conversations of my life, honestly. But it's like, okay, that's done, because I just need to finish putting myself back together and focus on my girls, my career, everything else in life, because this romance is done. It just broke my heart. It broke me wide open. I need to put the pieces back together. But what happened, Dana, so I did not plan to see him again. We start running into each other everywhere. And it's not like it was places we'd gone together. And also, we live 10 miles apart. And it just, why do we keep meeting again and again? We would bump into each other at the movies and, you know, out all different places. It's like, this is ridiculous. So I sat down and meditated and asked my guides why. And they said, do your work. You keep re-meeting because you've got a lot more work to do together. And it will be very powerful and very meaningful and very uplifting for both of you if you can just forgive one another, because that's really why we came together. So I did the work to do that. And we then became spiritual seekers together, and just had really, good, clean boundaries. I'm like, okay, we're not going to each other's houses. We're not going out for dinner. There will be no alcohol involved, coffee, lunch, and let's just help each other and figure out what we need to do. And I helped him get his first book published, because he didn't know, he'd finished it, but he didn't know how to publish it. And what I did was I meditated on that before I went to sleep at night, and said, please, if he's meant to publish his book, show us how. We just don't know how, because he's not attracting an agent or a publisher, and we don't know what to do with the book. So the very next morning, I wake up and I can hear my guide say, check your email. So I looked, and I had to look in junk because I didn't see it in my direct email box. But there was this very intriguing email from CreateSpace, which was the original Amazon self-publishing arm. It's now Kindle Direct Publishing. And it explained how to self-publish your book with them. So I just forwarded him the email. I'm like, here you go. Let's get your book published, because that had been part of our
Wow.
contract. And I thought it was literal, write books together, write the same book together. But when that
Hmm.
was no longer possible, Spirit is always working on plan B, C, D, E, F, G. They don't run out of letters. If
Right.
something is important, you just need to let go of, just spiritually surrender how, and just express your willingness, your desire to do X, Y, Z, and you will get
Yeah.
the assistance. And it's often in very surprising ways. Like you said, those synchronicities, those puzzle pieces come
Yeah.
in. And also he then becomes, my first book. And that was a beautiful circle completing, because he's the first one who told me about past life regression. I'd never heard of it, and introduces me to it. And then I end up becoming his past life regressionist, and his session becomes my first book. So then we had now both published, and we continued to help each other with our individual separate books. And we also we ran a spirituality group together. And we just continued to unweave all those past lives until
That's
finally
awesome.
I heard, I heard Spirit say, and I didn't want to listen to it. I didn't want to end the relationship. I didn't want to give it up, but I heard them say, it's complete. It would be best for you to let it go. And when we're not listening, when we're not, that human part of us takes over, and we're not
Hmm.
listening to Spirit, our soul, often other people will come in and tell us. So a spiritual teacher said to me very kindly, do you know who the person is that you're meant to wrap things up with and remove from your life? And I was like, yeah, I do.
Oh.
So I gave him every opportunity for closure, and told him and said, we need to wrap it up. And he was not happy, and like, why? And it's like, let's just have lunch. Let's just talk it through, no regrets, anything else we need to say to each other. Let's just wrap it up. And then I did give him a time period, because he still wasn't ready. And then it's like, okay, we're complete. We're complete. And now I'm not following my path, and I'm not following my guidance if we stay in communication at this point. So I need to end it.
Oh
So I did.
my.
I did.
Wow. Wow. And everything's been going really good and joyful for
Yes.
you. And
I just feel
yeah.
so privileged to get to help people with their energy healing, and having been through so much, so intense changes for me, and such dramatic spiritually transformative experiences, as well as the NDEs, as well as having worked through a plethora of my own past lives. I just really, as well as my own health issues, to have moved through. I had a incredible chronic pain that was to the point where it was becoming crippling. I was almost in a wheelchair, and to have been able to have healed that energetically through past life healings just made all the difference. So it's like, oh, I want to be able to help other people the same way, whether it's
Wow.
anxiety or depression, or whether it's chronic pain or just being stuck, and help people connect with their guides, because so many people want to do that, but they don't know how to do that, or they're not
Mhm.
confident in the information they're getting. They don't recognize it, or just they just need some validation of it. So I built
Yeah.
that into the sessions that I do with people. It's one of the things we do, is get them connected with their guide.
That's awesome. That is so awesome. Yeah. Well, we're about up on our time. We are at the hour. And so, thank you so much for all of your stories with the indies and how spirit has worked through your life. It's so amazing. I think it's so fantastic that you were able to listen to the spirit guides and all of this to bring your life in a complete circle. That's
Yes,
just wonderful.
absolutely. Yeah, from MBA to mystic is probably not the, not the typical path, but that's okay. We all have our path and we get on it when we're meant to. So,
Right.
yes,
Yeah.
so
So that's
appreciate
just fancy.
getting to share the story with you, Dana.
It's my pleasure. Like I say, it's my guests that make the show, and it's my subscribers and my viewers that keep the show moving. So thanks to everybody on that one. But thank you for being on the show. I am so happy you were able to be here with us. And any in anything you want to say to everybody for like a
Just the
ending?
best way to reach me, anyone that would like to get in touch, is via my website, which is wendyrosewilliams.com. And you'll find I offer a complimentary energy healing as a group workshop via Zoom. So you'll find that on the events page, as well as other wonderful uplifting group events, like how to connect with your guides, to do a short past life regression, those sorts of things, as well as the comprehensive sessions to work together one-on-one. And you'll also find the links to my books and to my podcast, which is Waking Up Spiritually.
Wonderful, wonderful. So everybody check that out. And while you're at it, let me know if you have any stories you would like to share with everyone. And click on the like, share, and subscribe buttons. And you can contact me through my website at lighttalkwithdana.com. And we will talk with everybody next time. Thank you for joining us. Bye.
Bye for now.